Making time for us.
My pleasure.
So you are there in Rye. They're obviously preparing the ballroom for the convention right behind you, and we are expecting, of course, this is a little actually, it builds up, right? On the final day, the gubernatorial candidate, Andrew Cuomo, will be making his big debut.
That's correct. So we're going to have some forums tomorrow on Tuesday, some caucus meetings, various smaller meetings, but we gavel in on Wednesday morning at 8:45 and begin the work. That should take us all day, and then Thursday in the morning we gavel in again at 8:45 and take care of nominating our next governor.
Now, there is a little bit of a contest in terms, or there's one big contest, and that's the Attorney General's race. We know that Andrew Cuomo has no primary, and he's going to be receiving probably unanimous support, I would expect, on Thursday. The Attorney General's race, there are at least five contenders. How is that going to work?
Well, you have five excellent candidates. Each one of them has been working very hard at trying to round up the state committee delegates that they need to get on the ballot. You need to achieve a 25% threshold in order to get on the ballot without having to go through the process, the cumbersome process, I would say, of petitioning. But what's going to happen on Wednesday is there will be one ballot. It'll be the candidates, the chips will fall where they may. The candidates have done their work, and now it's up to the state committee to decide who makes it onto the ballot.
So actually you need 10 committee members to nominate you as a candidate. Do you expect that Liz Holman, the former congresswoman and former city controller of the city of New York, will actually be throwing her hat into the ring? Because she made some noises and we interviewed her in Niagara Falls, but she hasn't made a decision yet. Has she spoken to you about that?
Well, we did talk. Now, let me just clarify. You need 10 state committee people to get you to be permitted to be nominated. Then you have a nominator and two seconders. But I did speak to Liz Holman. I had a very nice conversation with her at that time last week. She had not yet decided. She said that she would make a decision before the convention, so I would imagine tomorrow at some point she would announce something as to whether or not she has chosen to run.
Okay. And how many candidates do you believe at this time have sufficient support to get onto the ballot? Kathleen Rice, of course, the Nassau County District Attorney, is the front runner. She's coming out ahead in a Siena poll today. She comes in with at least 30 and change, probably maybe even as much as 40% of the weighted vote. If she gets to 51%, then only one other person can get on the ballot. That's pretty significant with such a big field.
I think actually the rules state, and I'm not 100% positive of this, I think if she gets 51%, then she is the only candidate that is getting on. In other words, that stops the balloting at the point that she receives that vote. But I don't think that we're going to see that. It could happen. My guess is more than likely there'll be 2 or 3 candidates getting on the ballot.
Okay. And are you expecting that would be likely Assemblyman Richard Brodsky and Senator Eric Schneiderman, because they come in with the most institutional support, if you will? The other two people who are also vying here, Eric Dinallo, the former state superintendent, insurance superintendent, and also Sean Coffey, an attorney. Neither of those gentlemen have ever held elected office before. And although Eric Dinallo won the straw poll upstate at the Democratic Rural Conference, that's still, those small counties don't make up a significant portion of the weighted vote.
Well, it's true. It's about weighted vote. But the only thing I would say to you is that I can't predict what the outcome of the convention is going to be. When you get a convention going, sometimes you just have to throw everything out the window when people finally get in to make their votes. But there's no question that Eric Schneiderman, as a state senator, is well known by many of the people who are here as state committee people. The same Richard Brodsky. They have not only strong bases of support in the counties that they come from, but they're well known. So there has to be some consideration of that strength coming into the convention. But beyond that, I certainly can't make any prediction as to how it's going to all play out.
Now, Andrew Cuomo obviously has said he's going to be endorsing someone to replace him. It's not clear if he's going to do that at the convention. Probably not, but he says before the primary. How much influence did he have on the decision to just hold one ballot, and how much influence has he or anyone around him wielded on behalf of Kathleen Rice or any candidate for that matter?
Well, I will tell you this. Andrew Cuomo has wanted to remain out of this process. And I think from the get-go, he's made it very clear that he'd like the process to move forward. He wants an open process. And he did not choose to involve himself. Had he wanted to involve himself, I would imagine he would have named a candidate, and he didn't do that. He was very clear he wasn't going to do that before this convention.
And similarly, actually, Assemblyman Brodsky has a heavyweight in his corner. It's Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver, significantly powerful guy. I assume that he is also politicking on Richard Brodsky's behalf. And then also in Eric Schneiderman's corner, you have Senate Democratic Conference Leader John Sampson. So you're having actually the three bodies of the legislative process, you know, the executive and then the two leaders of the legislature, really in different corners in this particular race. It's almost like a proxy fight.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard, Speaker Silver or Sampson having made calls on behalf of any candidates. So, you know, there's no question that one is a state senator, one is an assemblyman. But beyond that, they're also very popular in their own right. They're popular from the counties that they represent. So, you know, they're going to come in with their own strength, I believe. I think it's going to be a lot less complex than what you're implying.
Well, you know, I have to try to make it, you know, there are a lot of moving parts here, and certainly because it is politics, you know, you never know what angles people are playing. But also, I want to ask you about a race that we haven't spoken a lot about, no one really has, and that up until this point is the state controller's race. It is fairly clear now that there is no primary challenger to Tom DiNapoli. It'll be the first time that he has run statewide. He inherited this position. It was given to him by the legislature after Alan Hevesi resigned after pleading guilty to a felony of defrauding the government of public services. So are you concerned this Siena poll that came out today shows that still the comptroller is unknown after 3 years in office, hasn't really made very many inroads in terms of being popular with voters, or actually they don't even know who he is? Doesn't that worry you?
Well, I mean, at this point in an election cycle, that's not unusual for a position like comptroller. You know, I've cautioned people that polling at an early stage isn't really very conclusive. You have to remember that the public doesn't pay tremendous attention to the kind of detail that you'd have to pay attention to begin thinking about the comptroller. So that doesn't surprise me. Certainly the candidate of the Republicans, the one that we believe will be running, doesn't score very substantial, in fact, way less, obviously, than Tom DiNapoli does. Tom is going to have to do what every candidate has to do. He's going to have to raise money, craft a campaign, stay on a strong message of reform, which I believe is going to be our message with Andrew Cuomo running at the top of the ticket, and then I think he'll do very well.
Now, the people, in terms of attendance at the convention, it's yet unclear. It looks right now as that the governor and the state lawmakers are not going to be at the convention because there's no budget, and the governor has said that he thinks that it's appropriate for them actually to remain in Albany. Is the governor going to be speaking? Do we know? That would be David Paterson. Is he going to be saying anything, coming down to make an appearance, sort of this last hurrah, if you will, before a big gathering of Democrats? It would be the last time for him to address the party faithful in this manner.
Well, I think a lot has to depend on the budget negotiations and the budget work. If he can break away, I think he'll do it. If not, I think we'll hear from the governor by DVD, and we'll broadcast it by video.
Well, that's all the rage these days, because actually Andrew Cuomo